What happens when a bunch of nerds contemplate random topics of video games, overanalyze each detail of each video game played, and finally review those games? You get the Gaming Junkies Podcast. Now here's your host, Greg! Welcome to episode number 7 of the Gaming Junkies Podcast, our review on Shovel Knight Treasure Cove. I'm your host, Greg, aka Swiper, and joining me today are my good buddies, George and Rob. How are you guys today?
Doing great, man. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me. I'm doing well as well. Excited to, talk about a pretty quality game.
Hell yeah, boys. So, George, you've been on the past 2 shows, so I think some of the viewers are going to remember you. But, Rob, you are the new guy, so why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us how you got into gaming and what you've been playing and, maybe some of the genres that you prefer to play.
Yeah, of course. As you said, I'm Rob. I've been gaming pretty much all of my life. I'm in my 30s now. I started gaming when I was 3-4 years old. My family had an NES, so I started with Mario. Mario World 3 was probably one of my favorite games that I played. I played a ton of it. Fester's Quest on the NES, some of the Star Wars games.
Oh my god, I remember Fester's Quest. Okay,
sorry,
continue.
I didn't play Fester. Wait, did you have Duck Hunt? Did you play Duck Hunt?
Yeah, Duck Hunt with the gun, the light gun or whatever.
The gun that wasn't accurate at all, unless you're 2 feet from the TV or 3 inches.
Yeah, exactly. It
I
was
don't know,
fantastic.
Just hyper sidebar. I just remember farming the stupid bubbles in the sewer level to get the good gun in Fester's Quest because that was the only way you would ever succeed in that game. And you would just farm that bubble spawn for an hour and a half until you had the best ammo and weapons, and then you'd be like, all right, I can take on this game now. Because if you didn't do that, the game just wrecked you.
Yeah, you had to progress through, make sure you got all the guns, and then get onto the whip in the right amount of time.
Yep.
Yeah,
yep.
It was fantastic. But yeah, I've been gaming pretty much all my life. I started with an NES. Right now, I've got a Switch, got my computer, got a PS5. Some of my preferred genres, I really like Metroidvanias, or sprawlers as I like to call them. I like roguelites. I prefer the little more advancement that you get with them. I don't really play roguelikes. But I'll kind of play almost anything. I like RPGs, but I don't always play them. I like action adventure games, but I don't always play them. Right now, I'm bouncing back and forth between a few things. I've been bouncing off of Breath of the Wild for 5 different times, and I'm finally about to finish that. I'm playing Pokemon Unite, actually. I'm working on, Plague Tale: Innocence on the PS5, and the Demon Souls remake. I'm a big Souls fan. That's what I'm currently playing. I'll always throw a few other things in there too. I kind of have gaming ADHD. But yeah, that's my video game history pretty much.
Nice, man.
Greg, Rob and I are gonna be good friends. We have very, very similar tastes.
When he was talking about the games he wanted to play, I was like, dude, George is gonna love so many of these games. I'm like, I gotta ask George, dude, because you introduced me to Hollow Knight, and we did that podcast before, and that game kind of got me back into the whole platformer thing, because I gave up on platformers after Super Nintendo, I think, essentially.
I mean, just when anyone says Metroidvanias are my genre, I just go yes, this is another person. Because Metroid is my game. That is my series, I guess. I play Mario and Zelda and a whole bunch of other things on the side. But if there was one series I'd be you can only have one, it would be Metroid. And I really hope that they would have a game come out more than once every 10 years. But that's an entirely separate conversation. But yeah, I think we're gonna have similar tastes and maybe similar ideas. So this could be interesting.
Yeah, awesome.
This will be good. All right, well, thanks, Rob, for that. So basically, the game that we chose or kind of agreed on was Shovel Knight Treasure Cove. And I did some research on this game. Now, you guys are probably going to laugh, but I've heard of Shovel Knight, but I've never really looked into it or played it, and maybe it's just because I've been playing MMOs for so long, and now I'm kind of getting away from them. But I heard so many good things about it. So I did a little research after I played it, and I found out that this game, Shovel Knight, not Treasure Trove, but Shovel Knight, was released, in 2014 for, Windows, Nintendo 3DS, and the Wii U. And it eventually made it to, like, almost every single platform. And if you look at the reviews, it's just insane. Like, they are, like, basically, I checked out a couple. IGN gives it a 9 out of 10. Nintendo Life gives it a 9 out of 10. If you go to Steam, it has a rating of, like, overwhelmingly positive. So anytime you look this game up, it's just got, like, these amazing reviews. And I guess what happened was they had a Kickstarter, and they added all this stuff, and they met all their goals. So over the years, they kept building into it, and we have this game called Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, which essentially puts all these games into one bundle, and you just get a massive amount of content within this game overall. So basically, if you're new to this, like I was, Shovel Knight is basically a 2D platformer game developed by Yacht Game Clubs. It really dives into the retro, like, aspects of games. Now, when I say retro, I'm talking like Nintendo. I know there's more retro stuff than that, but that's kind of like, Rob, you guys, I think you grew up with it. I kind of grew up with a Nintendo in my house. So games
I would
like,
say,
Go ahead.
like 8-bitty,
yes,
kind of
total,
like. I mean,
yeah.
this. I don't think this is 8-bit, but it's like 16-bit or 32-bit or something like that. It's a similar structure concept.
Yeah, it gives
Yeah,
you that
close.
like feeling. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Rob.
Closer to like the no, I was just gonna say like closer to like the Super NES Mario games.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Super NES. Yeah, that's much better. So yeah, now like I was gonna say, games like Mario, Mega Man, a lot of those popular games, like that is kind of what this game really feels like. So before I go into crazy amounts of details, I want to start with you, Rob. What campaigns did you do? Because there's so many of them. What did you think of each one? What did you think of the game overall? I just, give us your opinion about it.
Yeah, so I'll do like a larger overview without getting into finer details yet. I only did 2 of the 4 available campaigns. I did Shovel Knight. I started with the Shovel Knight campaign, the main one, and then I did Spectre Knight. Spectre Knight's like a prequel to the Shovel Knight campaign, so I wanted to experience that. Overall, I enjoyed both of them. I think I had more fun with the Spectre Knight campaign. I liked some of the mechanics more with the Spectre Knight campaign. For both of them, though, and this could have just been me finding what worked better and sticking to that and just doing that, I did get a little bored. I felt like some of the stuff was kind of easier.
Mm-hmm.
Not like I was looking for an insane challenge with it, but overall I enjoyed it. But I felt like once I figured out like the quote unquote what I found to be like the best things to do, it was a little easier than I was expecting with it. But I really did enjoy it overall. I thought the mechanics worked pretty well. I enjoyed the fact that it wasn't super duper handholdy. Small things like the fact that it doesn't tell you how to like dig up cubes and stuff like that. Like I enjoyed that. But yeah, overall I enjoyed those 2. I went to go start a 3rd campaign. I think I was thinking of starting Plague Knight, but I kind of felt a little burned out at that point. But I did enjoy what I played of it. I played about 10 hours or so, and I didn't feel like it overstayed its welcome. I just felt like maybe not doing all 4 campaigns back to back was probably a better idea.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you. I did 2 as well, and the Spectre Knight was awesome. But before I jump in, George, what did you think?
So I guess just kind of like an overview of it. Like when I opened it up and the first time I started playing, I started with the Shovel Knight campaign too. He's the main character, so I was like, all right, I gotta start with this guy. I just kind of like when I looked at the original, the map, kind of like the overworld of the campaign, I was like, oh man, I'm getting Super Mario 3 like hard vibes from like this map, because it's kind of structured in that like, oh, you can select your level and you can go this way to fight this boss or this way to fight this boss. And the overworld is kind of just designed for those who remember. I mean, anyone younger than like 25 listening to this, they probably haven't played Super Mario 3. But so like Super Mario 3 overworld, and then like the level design just felt very Mega Man-y to me.
Oh yeah.
But
dude.
so like very similar to Rob, I'm probably more of a Mega Man X player than I am for like a Mega Man player, because the Mega Man bosses they're generally feel like they're like easy enough, right? They're doable. You learn one or two patterns, and then the boss kind of falls apart. The Shovel Knight bosses felt very similar, because like the patterns are there, right? You could literally not fight them for like 2 minutes, just learn how to avoid their stuff, and then take them apart. Um, and I was kind of looking for. I didn't find it in my like first run, but I was kind of looking for like a more challenging mode, and I think it only has the one difficulty. Um, so I guess I agree with Rob. Like the challenge aspect of the game, it is probably more for intermediate gamers than it is for like super advanced like I don't know, super advanced like advanced gamers, I guess. People who play like Soulsy type stuff and Ninja Gaidens and that type of thing. Because it's a very kind of forgiving. It's a pretty forgiving mechanic. There's plenty of health upgrades and whatnot. You get them pretty early. There's plenty of money to get those upgrades. Overall, so I did the campaign. I enjoyed the campaign. I enjoyed the Shovel Knight storyline. I feel like I need to play the other 3 campaigns to kind of get the whole picture of the game, because I feel like I'm only like, okay, this thing happened, but like, why did it happen? And I think the other campaigns will tell you that. I just haven't got there. When you're over 30, like the kids and stuff, just eat up so much time. But yeah, I mean, I did the campaign in probably like 2-3 hour sittings. I tried the battle mode, which is kind of like a Super Smash Brothers type thing with like Shovel Knight characters. So like all of like the bosses you fight, Shovel Knight, and some of the other characters you kind of like work your way through the end. That was kind of cool and kind of annoying because the computers, I don't know, I probably have to just learn the mode better. The computers kind of like feel like sometimes they're idiots and sometimes they're like way too smart for their own good. I don't know if like sometimes with like Super Smash Bros. Level 9 computers, they actually read your button inputs and they go, oh, he's doing this and this is the perfect counter for it. Let's do that. And you have to be like, oh, well, I guess I'm just gonna get wrecked in this situation. And as you get better, you can learn to like, okay, well, I'm just gonna like space it out to avoid stuff. And I'm not at that point in the battle mode for the Shovel Knight stuff yet. I could probably get there. I don't know if it's something I want to sink the time into to get there. I did do the whole challenge mode, and I enjoyed that a lot. But again, it's a challenge mode, and I think it should probably eat up. It's probably like the final mode of the game, right? Like we're gonna put you through these very challenging Shovel Knight sections, and when you master one, it should be a big achievement. There's like 30 of them. I did 28 of them in 2 hours, and I did the last 2 in like an hour on the last day.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So like, there's difficulty to it, but it's not like an insurmountable difficulty. Like if you have video game skill, I guess you're going to find the game kind of easy. And if you're kind of just casually playing video games and you come across this, I think you're going to enjoy it a lot more because it's going to be difficult, but it's not going to be like Souls-like or punishing.
Yeah, I think I can really agree with a lot of that. I remember when I first loaded in Shovel Knight, I got that Mario vibe, that same thing, that map. It just looked, you go like up, down, left, right. You run into buildings, you select the building, like an enemy comes out of nowhere, and you can go and find that enemy.
I haven't seen like a Mario 3 map in so long. Like Shovel Knight is the first time I've seen something like that in like a long time. Like I got immediate nostalgia vibes when I turned it on. I was like, oh, nobody's done this in forever that I know of. And then like, things would pop up on the map that would be like a little extra, like this isn't an actual level on the map, but it is an actual thing that popped up, so you could go do it. And you're like, yeah, Super Mario 3 used to have these things that have the coin ship pop up, or the little like bonus house thing, or sometimes like a Hammer Brother would pop up. Like those things are kind of cool and unexpected, and they keep the map kind of fresh. So they were a nice add-in, a nice bonus. I enjoyed them.
Yeah, that was a super awesome addition. I loved seeing the little like bonus stages pop up. I loved that so much.
Yeah, I feel like so when I like first jumped in this game, I started thinking, there's the Mario vibes, and then you start playing these levels, and they're like the elemental levels, right? You got the water level, you got like I think there was like a tinker level, and it just kind of brought me back to Mega Man. And to be honest, when I first started playing it, I'm like, what the hell is this? Like I've experienced this already, and I'm kind of annoyed. Like I heard a lot of good things about this game. But as like time went by, I started to think, well, they did do a pretty good job. And then as I was reading more, I'm like, well, that's kind of what they were going for. So if they're stating that this is what they were going for, then they did it pretty well, right? And I kind of agree with the premise that it wasn't super hard at all. And it's a perfect casual game where you can like, if you have an hour or two, you can just jump on your couch or wherever you're playing it and just play it, and you're gonna make progress. Like there's not something in this game that's gonna really prevent you from moving forward, and that's good and bad. If you want a challenge, like I agree with both of you, this is not the game where you're gonna be like, oh my god, I'm gonna be spending hours on this one boss fight. So overall, I think that for what they were going for, I think it was pretty good. Now, what I want to kind of do is talk about the progression, because from playing 2 campaigns and a little bit of Plague Knight, the progression in a sense is somewhat different but somewhat the same. So what did you guys think of the progression? And Rob, we can start with you, man. Did you like the progression? Did you not like it? Like, what did you think of it overall?
So, I'll take this by assuming you mean like your character progression, like upgrades and stuff like that. And how
Yeah,
you go through
yeah,
the
like
world.
how you made your character stronger and things like that overall.
So I kind of enjoyed it. I felt like I didn't utilize a lot of the upgrades though, like with Shovel Knight, with Spectre Knight. As you're playing through, you'll unlock different abilities, like different like sub weapons essentially. And also with both of them, you can like purchase armor upgrades, and you can, for Shovel Knight, you could purchase upgrades for your shovel. I didn't really use a ton of them. I think I got a for Shovel Knight's like shovel upgrades. I liked the fact that you could buy a shovel upgrade that lets you dig up a pit in one go instead of like 5 or 6 digs. But it was just a quality of life upgrade. For his like sub weapons, I only used 1 or 2 of them. I primarily just ended up relying on the shovel itself. With Spectre Knight, earlier on, you unlock an upgrade that restores your health. I used that almost exclusively for his sub weapons. I might have used 1 or 2 others in 1 or 2 instances. I purchased an armor upgrade for Spectre Knight that when you fall into a hole, you don't die immediately. It just uses up like half your life. And I never changed off of that. So I liked the progression, but only a little bit. I felt like while it was there and it did add some things, I felt it was a little unnecessary in how I ended up playing the game. I didn't use a ton of them. So I felt it was good. I felt it added, but for me personally, it wasn't something that I dug a lot into. I didn't really use a lot of those sub weapons. I didn't really experiment with different armor for either Shovel Knight or Spectre Knight. I don't know if it would end up being different in Plague Knight or King Knight, I think the other one is, because I didn't experience those campaigns. But it's there and I enjoyed it to a fault. I just didn't like a lot of it because I didn't use a lot of it. But what I did use, I liked.
Yeah, yeah. George, what was your opinion overall?
So I think the game can pretty easily be cleared with literally just the main weapon. It's not that difficult. The sub weapons on the side, they add some flourish and they allow for a little extra kind of movement. Because Shovel Knight gets like an air blade, which allows him to dash across the map. and like a punchy gauntlet, which kind of allows him to fly as long as he's like blowing up dirt clouds. Those things were pretty cool, but the game was designed so that there's only really particular places where they're useful. So for like most of the stuff, they're not. Um, I did like the dash sword you get from one of the bosses. I think it's Propeller Knight. Because like you can kind of spam that into a boss as long as you have MP, and you can wreck their health bar. Like because you bounce backward and up, and then like you fall a tiny bit, but if you're just smashing that and you're just burning your mana, you can do like, I don't know, I think most bosses have like 10 hearts or 8 hearts or something like that. You could do like 6 hearts of damage real fast. But in general, I don't really think the sub weapons come into play that much until you actually do the challenge mode. Because the challenge mode gives you boss fights. And I kind of thought they'd be like when we were talking about like Hollow Knight's Godhome type section, where it was like, okay, we have these boss fights where you're gonna fight the boss and it's gonna be, full power, and then if you get that, you'll get like a bronze medal, and then we're gonna power up the boss doubly and cut your abilities down a little bit, and then if you clear that, you'll get a silver medal, and then we're going to have you fight the boss with 1 health bar, and the boss is going to be at full health and kill you in 1 hit. And if you master the boss, you'll get the gold medal. Shovel Knights is different. They put you in like a timed battle, and they say, look, I know you can fight our bosses, and if you have infinite time, you can just kind of like wait for like the best opportunity to hit them, and then just kind of dirtle around until the boss comes back. The challenge mode says you have 30 seconds to kill this boss. Or 15 seconds or something like that. Mole Knights is particularly nasty because I think you get like 30 seconds to kill him, and I think like at 15 seconds of those he's like invulnerable or in a wall or something.
Yeah.
So like he's kind of nuts. That one was hard. But like those challenge modes were interesting for me because those are like, this is the optimal way to fight this boss. They kind of set you up for like the optimal way to fight this boss, and you kind of learn like, oh man, I could have taken this boss down like way quicker and pretty flashier instead of like standing there avoiding attacks and like waiting for him to be under me so I can down shovel him 15 times. So they do add some spice to it. If you're just playing through like the storyline campaign, I don't think you'd ever find it unless you were like really struggling with the boss. And like I'm kind of like thinking about this in the back of my head. We're all like 30-year-old gamers who've been playing games for like our entire lives, right? Like there are only so many games out there that are probably going to challenge us. Shovel Knight's probably going to be, fairly challenging for an 8 to 10 to 14-year-old who's not new to gaming, but like, he's played a little bit of it, and he knows how to do stuff, but like he's not like, oh, okay, like when I go into a game, I'm like, okay, what type of boss is this? Is this a boss that's like a pattern recognition boss, or is this a boss where it's like, I got to make sure I beat it by this amount of time? Does this boss not take damage and I just need to survive? Like, I know the types of bosses that are out there, so I can kind of analyze the situation in the first, like, 30 seconds of a fight to know, like, what I need to do. I think, most people who haven't playing video games for 20 plus years probably don't go into a boss fight and then immediately go, oh, okay, this is what I need to do, right? So from that perspective, I think, other people with a little, not 20, 30 years of experience in gaming will probably find, the bosses, pretty challenging. Said when you have a lot of experience in it, the newness, I guess, isn't there for you. So
yeah,
it's not a matter of, okay, this boss is brand new, I don't know what he's going to do. It becomes, okay, I've met a million bosses in my life. They generally all try to kill me in 1 to 2 ways. Does this boss have an insta-kill? No? Okay. All right, now I just have to avoid attacks, right, and do damage.
Yeah. I gotta be honest with you guys. I think when it comes to like the progression and stuff, I felt exactly the same way. I'm like, holy shit, dude. There's so many of these relics you could buy. Speaking of the Shovel Knight, and I think it was a little clunky because, you had to cycle through them. So I like tried to utilize it because it brought me back to like Mega Man. So when you beat a boss, you get their power essentially, and some of those powers would be like incredibly like just a lot more better versus a boss, whereas some bosses would just take no damage, they'd be immune. So I'm thinking, oh, okay, there's got to be some kind of link here with these powers. Yeah, I think I used like that invisibility thing or that invulnerability thing a few times. And
Did you use it outside of the one level that it had mandatory use in?
You mean, I think I used it like all the time on levels. So like if I got impatient,
Okay.
I would just press it and just like run through enemies. You know what I'm saying? Like if it was yeah, like so it was more or less a thing like, wow, this is kind of a pain in the ass. Let me just use it real quick, and I got right through, which kind of sucked, but was kind of cool. I guess it's kind of a double-edged sword because you're kind of like cheating. It felt like I was cheating, but I mean, it was kind of annoying to cycle through the powers. Like when you first fought was it the Dark Knight or the Black Knight? I forget what he's called.
Black Knight?
Black Knight. Yeah.
Yeah, like I was like, oh, dude, his powers are awesome. He's like shooting magic and like, oh, I want that. And then you get his power. I think it's like a beam or like a little magic ball you shoot. And I used that like the very first time I got it, and I don't think I ever used it like ever again. So I think maybe this was done intentionally. I think they wanted you to be able to beat the game without having to rely on the powers. I think it was just kind of an extra thing you could do. I know like the Spectre Knight had an ability where you would float for a little bit. So if you made a bad jump, because that character's all about jumping and hitting things and going like up or down, and you could always kind of save yourself a little bit if you timed it right. I did like the armor. I thought the armor was cool because getting like a different visual look, I thought it was kind of refreshing in a sense. I think the Spectre Knight had a really cool feature where you would be like almost skateboarding or snowboarding. So
Yep.
like you could ride the rails and shit. Like that was pretty cool, man. I like that. That was awesome. But I felt like the progression overall, it was pretty basic, right? You got money, you bought stuff. If you died, you lost your money unless you could recoup it.
Or you had the red armor.
The red arm.
I used the red armor for Shovel Knight once I got it the entire game.
Which one
'Cause
was
it,
the red
like,
armor?
It halves the money you lose when you die.
Oh,
And
yeah.
like, I mean, half the time, like some of the later levels, you're like jumping and like something will spawn, like a little propeller knight
Mhm.
thing, and he'll be like, "Oh, I see you're in the air. What if I blow you backwards for that platform you're aiming for right over there? Oh, that sucks, man. Good luck with that." It's
Yeah,
like,
you can't reach those. You can't reach those money bags now. I hope
Nope.
it wasn't important.
Yep. Oh, you lost 30,000 gold. Ah.
I do
Who cares?
want to talk about bosses, and that boss drove me that level. Well, I want to talk about level design and bosses, but that level, and I guess that's a good segue. That level kind of drove me nuts. In both campaigns, the Propeller Knights level and the fight, like those little guys with the propellers on their head, they just come over and you just like fly right off. And sometimes when you're rushing through like a level, and you don't know they're there because it's the first time you experience the level. So you're rushing through, and then you jump, and then they show up, and they cut this scene while you're in midair and just shoot you. And I'm like, you mother effer, man. Like, it was the one level that really did give me a headache a little bit. Just a little bit. But, so yeah, so progression, I think we're kind of all on the same page. It's not something that is really necessarily even needed. You could get through the game without really paying attention to this stuff, I think. Now, when it comes to level design, did you guys have like a favorite level? Anything that kind of stuck out to you? Did you like the level design? And Rob, we can start with you, man. Go for it.
So overall, I enjoyed the level design. I know we touched on the overworld map, and then getting into the actual level design. I love the fact that the game is basically a love letter to Mario and Mega Man games. So I did enjoy the level design overall. In with Shovel Knight, I mean, it's fine because it's a game and there's different things with it, but the Tinkerer Knight level annoyed me. I had a bit of trouble with Tinkerer Knight when I was Shovel Knight. My favorite, I really enjoyed Mole Knight stage. And I think the Mole Knight stage was the one that had the segments where you get on like a big beetle that has the bouncy back. I think that was Mole Knight. I enjoyed those sections. I don't know why. It's not like there's anything like world shattering for like new developments in gaming, but I really enjoyed those segments. I enjoyed I can't remember the name of the boss, the Ice World boss. I enjoyed him as a boss. His level, I don't like ice levels because I hate the slippy slidey stuff. That's just a personal thing. But overall, I did enjoy the levels. I thought that they were laid out really well. I liked the little hidden stuff that they had in them. Like finding all the different chests and finding the music notes, like the music for Shovel Knight's campaign.
Yes.
Or when you're Spectre Knight, finding the red skulls. So I loved those little hidden things because they weren't super, super difficult to find, but they were still like, you could easily miss them if you're not looking for them kind of thing. I enjoyed those. So overall, I do like the level design. I think that they did a really good job. Just some personal things, like I hate ice stages, but that's just me.
I think that's the Polar Knight, now that I'm remembering. He's like
Polar
the
Knight.
Viking guy, right?
Yes, he's the Viking guy with the large snow shovel.
Yep.
It's kind of funny. It's like the small shovel's the big. It's like the big sword, the small sword. It's, I don't know. It's kind of silly. Yeah, George, what did you think, man?
So, I mean, as far as level design, I liked most of the levels. I didn't like Propeller Knight stage because of the propeller things. For the same reason and I was trying to look at like when I was annoyed at a section, I was just kind of looking at like how the enemy would spawn, and a lot of the times like near the end of Propeller Knight stage, that propeller enemy would always spawn at like during a jump, and he would come right over to you while you were midair and be like, how about I do some gusty stuff? And you're like, I don't have a platform below me, don't do that, that's so uncool. And he's like, oh, that's kind of my job. So like that was annoying the first like 2 or 3 times. And there was another one in the Enchantress's castle when you're on like the ice like glidey platform thing. There was another 1 or 2 that spawned there that like did the same thing. It was like, oh, I have to jump now. But if I jump now and get to my ice platform, which is melting below me because, I had to knock it over there to be on it, this guy's going to blow me off. So it was like, okay, I have to, like, be very specific on how I go through that section. And I think that part was always intriguing to me because, like, that's the difficulty, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
There's, like, probably 3 difficult spots in the game, right? There's 2 in Enchantress's Tower, and it has to do with these stupid Propeller Knights. And there's 1 in Propeller Knights level, and it's the same thing. Like, you need to jump over this platform, and then there's some gusty stuff going on all around you, and you have to get to this other platform over here. And while you're moving right through the stage, he spawns on the right-hand side at a certain point every single time because that's his spawn point. And he Fs with you while you're trying to move through a section where you really don't have any flooring below you. So, like, those are probably, like, the big difficulty spikes in the game. Which is probably why they're a little more annoying because, like, the rest of the game is kind of a gimme. Yeah. So, like, yeah, I can see those parts being frustrating. But the rest of the game was pretty fun. Like, I enjoyed Plague Knight's level. I thought it was, pretty flashy. It kind of reminded me of, like, it had like Dr. Mario vibes to it if like Dr. Mario game wasn't Tetris and it was like Dr. Mario running around throwing pills.
Yeah.
Like take like Super Smash Bros. Dr. Mario, stick him in a Mega Man level and that felt like Plague Knight's level.
Fantastic level, yeah.
I liked Spectre Knight's level. I liked the whole like graveyard skeleton theme. I had to run through King Knight's level like 4 times to find my last music note. I found all the other ones, no problem, but King Knight's was the last music note, like, frustrated me. I went through the level, I was like, I am not missing anything. what am I missing? And then like I was thinking about it, I was like, you know what I haven't checked? I haven't checked the freaking opening spawn point. And I always go right here, but maybe I could go left. And then I went left and it's like right there. I'm like,
Oh man, dude. I
and
could just
after
see
that,
you. I could just see you sitting there like, dude, I have to do this. Like, there's one extra. I have.
well,
to do
because
this.
it's like I went through the whole level. I know I wasn't missing like any like secret sections because the game's kind of obvious about like, hey, there's a
Yeah.
secret section here. Like, there's this little weird block. Make sure you hit it. uh, so like I knew I wasn't missing anything like as I went throughout the level. And the third time I went through it, I was like combing each screen, and I was like, okay, I know I haven't missed anything. It's either in the boss room and I have to do something very specific while fighting the boss, or oh, you know what I haven't checked? I haven't checked the freaking opening room where there's nothing on my left and I could go that way, but I always go right because
Oh.
right is the natural way to go. So like that was one of those like aha moments.
Dude, you got me. You got me thinking. One thing that drove me a little crazy about this game is, you know, when you're traversing, right, and you're going left to right, and you're going up and you're going down. I don't know if I'm just stupid, but sometimes I thought I could go down, but you couldn't go down. So I'd be like, oh, I could go left or down, and you know, depending on which way you went, sometimes you got rewarded. You got like a cool chest, a little small jumping puzzle with a cool chest. So I would just jump down and die, and I'm like, oh, so I can't go down there. But then if you go right like 2 times and go up, then you can go down, or like you got to keep track of where you're going. 'Cause,
Yeah,
like,
so
Go
that
ahead.
like when you're speaking of that, like the Propeller Knight stage had a secret area that I really liked how they did it. So did you guys 100% the game just out of curiosity? When you did like the Shovel Knight
the
campaign?
shovel, I think I got like 70% because I think I was trying to do all the campaigns, so I didn't like touch everything with the Shovel Knight.
Okay. How about
Yeah,
you, Rob?
I did not 100% it. So there's definitely spots that you found that I did not find. I was
Okay.
not going intentionally for 100%.
So and that's just kind of me as a gamer. Like if I can't move on until it gets 100%. So that's why I only did the one campaign. Like they didn't take all that long, but like there were some sections where I like had to sit there and be like, how
Yes.
the frick do I get there?
Yeah, you gotta like backtrack and things. Yeah.
Well, so there's one in Propeller Knight's level where you kind of jump across this chasm and like a little fan guy comes up to blow you across, and you blow across into a fan thing, and the fans send you up to a ladder. And if you look down, there's like this secret tunnel, right? You can see it. It's very obviously there, but when you try to drop down to get to it on the screen, you can't get to it because of the fans. The fans do not let you get that low. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, all right, do I have an armor that's like Zelda iron armor, which kind of negates the fans? No, none of the armors do that. Okay. If I like shovel into it with the down shovel, do I like dip like a U type thing and get in there? No, it doesn't do that. I'm looking at my like other items. I'm like, I don't have anything that makes me heavier. I don't have anything that like blocks a fan with a block or something like that. How do I do this? And so I was like, I kind of gave up. I went up a screen. You have to hop over these like jellyfish to get to another ladder. I effed it up, and one of the jellyfish electrified, knocked me back, made me fall, and I was falling. I was like, well, I'm just gonna fucking die, aren't I? And you fall into the screen below you, and the screen below you is the screen you just climbed from, and the fans aren't on yet. Like they turn on when you get in there, but because I was falling from a screen above, I had so much momentum, I kind of U'd into the vent. It was just kind of one of those things where I was like, oh, well, I have a lot of speed, and I landed on the fan. I didn't get in there the first time, but I landed kind of like very close to the fan, and I was like, oh? And the next time I like kind of U'd in, and I found like the secret section for the Propeller Knights thing.
That's cool. Like those are the small little things that I like in games. You know
Well,
what I'm
so
saying?
like the interesting thing is, if you guys didn't find that section, you didn't find the dash sword that I was talking about earlier, and that dash sword is so useful for like making new Shovel Knight movement, because like it allows you to move left and right in the air for like 4 mana points or something like that, and you can kind of sit above an enemy forever for a very long time. and that kind of added a lot of intrigue to my late game. It kind of helped the game from getting stale. Because a lot of the other items like, oh, I have this like wand I can throw like a ball at from an end. It's not really that interesting. I'm not playing like hurdle defense mode or anything like that.
Yeah.
Or like this coin that floats around the bottom of the stage, also kind of boring. These like anchors that throw in a U that reach high things. All right, if I can't reach the enemy with my shovel, maybe I'll use these. But the dash sword for Shovel Knight was a very interesting item because it really opened up a lot of movement options for him, and it made him a little more technical and like kind of less less bland to play with. Like I didn't just have like base shovel and like jump in the air down shovel. Now I had like a dash attack, which I could use as a movement to get more downward shovels if the boss had moved out of the position. Like that kind of opened up some of that type of stuff.
Yeah, I could see that. Oh, go ahead, Rob. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so I did end up finding that then. I don't know if I got to it the same way you did. I don't recall how I got to it, but with Shovel Knight, oh no, wait. I didn't find it that way. I bought it. Because if you complete a level and you don't find the guy in the level, you can go back to the town and buy the relic.
Is that the guy in the base? That's the guy in the basement, right? And you go like
Yep.
all the way to the right. Yeah, because I thought like I had that power, and I'm like, I don't think I got it from I'm pretty sure every time I had the money, I would buy just everything. I would just buy.
I didn't realize
everything.
when you cleared. So if I didn't find the relic in a level, I went back to the level until I found the relic.
Oh, okay.
I didn't realize you could go and buy it down afterwards. Okay, all right.
That's interesting.
so-
That's a good point. That's a good point, Rob.
Yeah, so I think Propeller Knight's relic, the dagger, was the only one I didn't find in stage, actually, now that I'm thinking about that, because I bought that at town, but also that was the last relic I got, so I didn't end up using that dagger a ton at all. I used it a little bit in the Enchantresses in the tower. But yeah, so that does, like you were talking about, that does open up a lot of interesting movement options. It makes Shovel Knight a little closer to Spectre Knight in movement, but I do wish I'd gotten it earlier, just because it was fun. It was a fun relic to use.
The character feels he moves very well. He just feels clunky a little bit.
Yes.
Like his character usage is very smooth, but as a character, he just feels like a fat, clunky knight he moves, but he doesn't move like very well. He's not that fast. He's not that like evasive. He doesn't have like a real quick like dodge roll or anything like that. He's just like kind of like a tank moving through these levels with a big old shovel.
Yeah.
The movement option for him later really kind of opened up the character usage to me.
Yeah, I gotta admit, when I was first playing it, I was like, oh my god, dude, I can only swing forward and down. Like, if something's above your head, it's like you have to like really maneuver your body to actually hit it without getting hit. Whereas you couldn't just lift your
That
shovel
pissed me
up.
off too.
And I was just like, oh god, I'm like, okay, relax, dude. It's like it's supposed to be like a throwback game. This is like how it is, and I had to keep telling myself.
There's a level early. I think it might be King Knight stage where there is 2 sand blocks at the top of the level, and I couldn't figure out how to break. They're like in the ceiling, right? But they're breakable blocks, and I couldn't figure out how to break them. I don't think they're breakable. I think they're just there to like piss
Drive
you
you
off or
crazy?
something like that. Well, you can't swing above your head, right? So even if I'm like right under it, I can't break them and go upwards. So like, I didn't know what to do about them, and they were, when I was looking for the last music note in King Knight's level, they were like,
Oh,
I'm like, they
no.
have to be up there.
Oh no.
They have to be up there. I have like almost 100% in this game. I definitely am missing just one thing. It is definitely the freaking music note. How do I break these things? They have to be up here. I'm still like thinking about it. I'm about to go Google it and see if there's like a thing up there.
I'm trying to think of it too with all the powers you get. But I'm forgetting
But
a
yeah,
lot of the powers.
there's nothing that swings like above your head, except that will break a sand block. Like there's the anchor thing, but
the fist, but you need to be in front. You have to like physically be in front of it. You can't.
yeah, they only go left or
Yeah,
right. Like the only thing that goes upwards is like the shovel thing. Not the shovel
The
thing.
anchor.
The
The
anchor.
anchor, yeah.
But that doesn't break sand blocks. So
I hope somebody actually like
I'm
listens
really
to
curious
this.
what's up
and-
there now.
Yeah, I hope somebody listens. If you know this, if anybody's listening to this, I play this game. Like, shoot me in the comments, please, on YouTube and tell me. I mean, I guess we could Google search it, but it'd be awesome if somebody was just like, "Yeah, it's this." But sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, man. Go for it.
I don't really remember where I was. Now I'm just upset. Now I'm just upset at these blocks and this feeling.
You're gonna be thinking about it all night. Yeah. So I guess I'll bring it back to like kind of level design. What I thought. I think it was I think it's a water level, and now I'm forgetting. It was the Treasure Knight, because I think he was like underground with the treasure.
Yeah, he
like
was in a ship.
yeah, I think that was really cool because I've always liked the concept of when you're underwater, like in Mega Man games, like when you jump like 50 feet in the air. So that opens up a lot of opportunity to do a lot of fun things. But I think it was familiar and it was fun. The ice levels, I kind of agree with you, the whole sliding thing. Unless they can somehow make like a mechanic with the sliding, kind of like what they did with the Spectre Knight when you throw down when you're riding your scythe, like that's fun. But Shovel Knight, I don't think really had anything like that from what I remember. But yeah, I'd say definitely the treasure was my favorite. Like I said, Propeller drove me crazy. And I guess, the Enchantress was kind of cool because I think it combined a lot of the aspects that you kind of experienced. I got to be honest with you, I was breathing very heavily when you're at the Enchantress level and like the blocks were coming as you were walking. So I was physically walking like a centimeter. and at the one end part, when you get through most of it, it's literally just straight for like a whole, like, I guess, like block of what the scene is. But I still went like an inch. And after I did that whole thing, I'm like, wow, I'm an idiot. Like, it was straight the whole time.
Oh, where like I did the same thing where the blocks are just like they're kind of coming up from the floor and they're like, oh hey, we're blocks. Yeah, no, I didn't trust those things at all, because it's gonna be, oh, I'm running, and then all of a sudden it's gonna be like, oh, the block stopped. You need to pause for a second because we're just gonna like do the thing where they're not gonna come up immediately. They're just gonna be like, oh, we'll be here, but you gotta wait like 2 seconds. Yeah, no, I didn't trust those things at all.
Yeah, so I think we hit a lot of the aspects of what this game offers. I think we talked about the progression, we talked about the level design, some of the bosses. I wanted to bring up kind of the music. I thought it was kind of cool that you could gather the in-game music within the game, and then it was kind of like a little jukebox feature where whatever you collected you can go listen to. Now, to me, I'm a big proponent of music in games, but the music was just, I don't know. It was all right. I mean, it served its purpose for what I said earlier, what they're trying to accomplish. But I don't know if you guys have really anything else to say about the music.
So personally, I really dug the music. I really enjoyed it, but admittedly, I also enjoy listening to chiptune music. I don't listen to it all the time, but like I like listening to that kind of style of music.
Okay, yeah.
So for me, it was really enjoyable. I really liked the quote unquote like the love letter to the retro game. So like the old Mega Man, like the Super NES Mega Man soundtrack, stuff like that. So I really enjoyed the music. Can I tell you like the track names and which ones I liked the most? No, I really liked the Mole Knight's music, like his stage music. But overall, I enjoyed the music, and it definitely fit the bill for what the game was going for. So I liked it personally, but like I said, I just enjoy that music style in general.
Yeah. George, what do you think, man?
I'm trying to like recall if anything was memorable to me music-wise in the game, and I don't think anything really was. Like, I got all of the notes. I got the jukebox unlocked. I listened to like one or two of them. I don't remember the music getting me hype. Like, when I think of like old school Mega Man, I think of like Quick Man stage, right? Where it's
Yeah,
like
Quick
din,
Man,
din, din, din,
yeah.
din, 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 like stuff like that. But like it like stuck with you, right? And when you're going through it, you're like, all right, yeah, I can get into this. This is all right. and kind of like some of those Mega Man levels that I think I effed up the Quick Man stage theme when I was trying to like
A
do
little
it
bit.
just a
Yeah,
bit
that didn't
ago.
sound like it, but that's all right.
I
know
think
what you're
I
saying.
just did Mega Man's, but like they're in my head, and I guess I can't pull them out on command anymore. But like I will definitely recognize them if they pop up. If you played me a Shovel Knight theme right now, I don't think I would recognize it.
I think
So
yeah, I think some of them were memorable. I think maybe it's the
I
Propeller
think
Knight because it drove me crazy. But
I
I do
think I
remember
would
that one.
remember it because the music fit the stage, right?
Yes.
So like Spectre Knights was spooky,
Mhm.
King Knights was very like, oh, it's a medieval castle. Propeller Knights very much reminded me of an airship.
Mhm.
Polar Knights reminded me of an ice level. Like they definitely invoked the ambience they were going for, but as far as like either getting me hype or making me remember them, they didn't hit either of those boxes for me. So like they definitely fit their stage. They were definitely like music tracks that did what they were supposed to do, but they're not music tracks that like stuck with me enough to be like, I'm gonna add that to like a video game playlist.
Yeah, I think that's like the perfect way to put it. I think it definitely fit the levels, and some of the levels like I was like, oh, okay, I like this, and then other ones I kind of shut it out of my brain. So I guess I thought it was a little bit more than just okay. Now that I'm thinking back to it and playing it, but yeah, I remember. I think a perfect example is like when you play, man, was it like Super Smash Brothers and like the Quick Man theme comes on? I know that's a little bit out there, it's a little bit changed, but that I remember hearing that and I'm like, holy shit, I'm gonna kick some ass, man. Like I didn't
Yeah,
I
like
didn't
you get
that
you get that hype atmosphere, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
there was maybe one of the fights against the dark the Black Knight. Is that his name? I think
Yeah,
the
Black Knight.
Yeah.
There was one fight against him where I was kind of like, okay, this music kind of kicks a little bit, but like other than that, I don't think anything like got me like super hyped or super pumped up or made me feel like super stressed. And
Yeah.
some of that might be because like there is kind of like a mental state that you need to be in for the music to also kick you in, or at least I find that's the case for me. Like if I'm like stressing out because I'm like low on life and like, oh, if I die it's gonna really suck because I'll have to go all the way back to the save point, I like tune in even more, and then the music like really kicks me and I get like in tune to like everything going on. I never felt stressed playing Shovel Knight, right? I never felt like I was like in a situation where I was gonna be like, oh man, if I die, it's gonna be this big deal.
Yeah. Mhm.
Because like, and that's a good thing too, because like, there's not a lot of people who want to play video games to get stressed out. I'm kind of weird in that aspect. Like when something stresses me out in a video game, it means it's hard, and that like intrigues me and makes me want to like dig at it harder. And
Yeah.
most people play video games because they want to have fun and pass the time. So take this
It's
with a grain of salt if you're that type of player, because the game won't really stress you out, which is good. You'll have fun. You'll be challenged by it a little bit. Uh, but it's not going to be like this like big like, oh man, this boss is way too hard for me. I'm never gonna take like I'm gonna have a real struggle taking it down. Like it'll take you 4 or 5 tries, then you'll probably get it.
yeah. Yeah. And I feel like for the most part you can kind of bully your way through some of these bosses. And sometimes you just get flat out like lucky. You just jump in the air, put your shovel down, and hit their head, and you can just keep hitting them. It's like a pogo stick. So that's kind of what I fell through with a lot of these bosses and a lot of the thing. Like I was just like, damn, okay.
Yeah, I think that's actually a good. I think I feel very similar. Like there's a lot of bosses where I felt like I could just power through. Like
Yeah.
my health, like early game, I struggled a little bit with Spectre Knight because he was my very first boss and I was still on 3 health bars. And I went through like I struggled a little bit with him. When I finally beat him, all I did was upgrade my health, and I
Yeah.
went like immediately from like 3 health bars to like 7. And then like I had equivalent health bars to the boss the rest of the game, and the boss is not trading blows equally with me. I'm just gonna bully the crap out of him at that point.
Yeah, yeah. So as I was saying, with me like finding the optimal way for it, that's pretty much how I beat almost all the bosses, was just with Shovel Knight, down shovel, bounce, hit them like 3-4 times, then they move away, so I have to reposition and bounce a few more times.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like if you're hitting them twice during those shovel things, there's no way they're hitting you more than twice, like back, right? Like most of those bosses aren't hitting you 2 or 3 times before you hit them 2 or 3 times. So you can literally just walk up to them, smack them, they can smack you, and you can trade blows, and generally you're going to win. And I think that's the aspect that made the game too easy for me.
Yeah, it's
Like
tough. Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like in a Mega Man game, right? You're not going to like trade a Mega Buster Blast with a boss's like electrical cannon. Like most of the time when Mega Man gets hit by something of the bosses, you get like 3 hits or 4 hits and then you're just dead.
Yeah.
Shovel Knights did not have anything like that. I think the hardest a boss hits you is like the final boss in the game whose balls hit you for like a full health bar each hit instead of a half a health bar each hit. But like that's the most powerful move in the game, and you have to be hit 8 times to die. You should be okay.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I think that's exactly what I did. I upgraded all my health as soon as I possibly could, and it did kind of open the game up. But yeah, it was just a lot of bullying, taking hits. I was almost like a tank in an MMO. I was just taking a ton of hits and kind of dishing it back out there.
So I mean, that's when I said earlier, like he felt like a tank. That's why I think he felt like a tank. Shovel Knight could take so much damage, and then like grab a turkey and be absolutely fine, and then just take so much. Like I didn't really have to be careful anywhere. Like you have to be careful around jumping and falling into pits, but like actually fighting anything, there's nothing in the game that's scary. Like even the bosses are you can power through them by really just tanking them. You do have to do some jumping to avoid stage hazards when you're fighting them, but for the most part it's just I'm gonna walk up and smack you. Oh, you smacked me, I'm smack you again. Oh, you smacked me. Like we're at equivalent damage. That's never the case when you fight a boss in most games. Like in most games, when you fight a boss and the boss hits you twice, you're in bad shape. Like you do not want to get hit by the bosses more than like 4 times in a boss fight generally, unless you're running like healing potions and stuff like that. And to make it worse, when I found the chalices in the game, right? There's no reason to put the invulnerability or the treasure sucking thing in there, right? Literally just always have the healing and mana healing potion. Like I've got 8 hearts to start with, and I've got 2 potions that fully heal my health and mana in one boss fight. There is no boss in the game that's doing 24 hearts worth of damage to you unless you are absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, because I was trying to do a little more research in the game, because I felt like there was a lot more that I missed out on. And I don't know if the challenging mode was what you were bringing up, George, but I thought there was some kind of mode that basically made them hit like twice as much and made you take which you would take more damage, and you started with less health. Was that the challenge mode, or is this something else that I was maybe finding in my research?
Maybe there's like an extra, like a harder difficulty, and if so, I want to play that mode. Just start me on that mode, please.
New Game Plus, which I think is that.
Okay, yeah, I wish I had started on New Game Plus. Honestly, I wish there was a New Game Plus, and then like that would be the actual mode I would probably play on.
So
the
Rob,
challenge mode. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, Rob, do you have to? I don't know if you read about this, but do you have to complete the campaign and then does it unlock that? I think.
Yes. Yeah. So when you beat the game, when you beat the campaign, it then says, hey, you can select the file again and start New Game Plus. When you do New Game Plus, you retain everything from your existing file. But I don't know if all of the enemies are harder. I didn't play a ton of New Game Plus, but all of the food plates that have food in the stages, they are all replaced by bombs. So you don't get you don't get health upgrades, health restores throughout the levels.
Okay, that's better.
Yeah.
That would be more fun for me, I think.
Yeah. And you still have all the other stuff though. Like the game itself is the same. Otherwise, like but I do think that they do more damage. But like you keep whatever health level you had from your existing file, you keep that. You keep if you upgraded your armor or your shovel, you keep all of that. Just the enemies probably hit harder, and there's no food throughout the levels.
So there's one aspect of this game that we didn't talk about, and it's kind of the story. So I know we all seem like we kind of completed a couple campaigns, but not all of them. And one thing I do want to say is that all these campaigns kind of they kind of tell the story of all these characters, and they kind of throw them in together sometimes when you're playing the game. So overall, I think what they did with the story was awesome. I think anytime a game like allows you to play one or like multiple characters and somehow bring them together in a way that makes sense. Now, the story is nothing groundbreaking or probably anything that you haven't really heard already, but kind of the humor with some of the stories and some of the jokes that they make. Like, you know, when you're Shovel Knight, you walk into the village and the guy's like, hey, no weapons here. And then he's like, oh, wait, it's just a shovel. And he's like laughing. I actually laughed at that. And I was like, yeah, I got a freaking shovel, dude. This is like, I thought it was just silly. Like, I don't have a sword. Like, I have a shovel. And then when you're the Plague Knight, you walk into that same town and they're like, dude, you're evil. Like, get the hell out of here. Like, you don't belong here. So I kind of like how they kept the same world, kind of manipulated the levels a little bit more to suit that character. And this way, when you play a different campaign, the levels are pretty different depending on what you play. So when you go from the Spectre Knight to Shovel Knight or vice versa, the levels are, in my opinion, essentially different because of the mechanics of the Spectre Knight, where you can jump on the walls and kind of dash around with your scythe and go in air and like bounce off enemies and things like that. So it really brings a lot of value to this game, in my opinion. So what did you guys think of this story? And I don't know if I know it's kind of corny, but I don't know. What did you guys think?
So the story, I think I enjoyed the story more because I played Spectre Knight's campaign. So like when you start the Shovel Knight campaign, it's like, oh, you and Shovel Knight and Shield Knight were like the main knights, but there were other knights. Shield Knight dies / disappears, and then Shovel Knight leaves, and then the entire world falls to ruin. And I'm thinking, okay, well, what happened to the other knights? And then because you come back, the Order of No Quarter is ruling everything. What happened to all the other knights that they talked about? So I liked, I know, George, you didn't play it, but I liked Spectre Knight because it was a prequel. It shows how the Order of No Quarter comes about, and it also shows, after you beat Spectre Knight, it shows what happens between the Order of No Quarter forming and you coming in as Shovel Knight. So that was nice to see that. Like you said, the story is nothing groundbreaking, kind of generic-ish, but I still liked it. I think it was, for what the game was, I think it served its purpose. It took you from point A to point B, but I wasn't playing Shovel Knight for the story. But I still enjoyed it. Like I said, I enjoyed it much more because of Spectre Knight. If I just played Shovel Knight's campaign and that was it, personally, I would have been like, take or leave the story. I could play the game without the story.
Yeah. George, yeah, and I'm trying to remember, George, you did Shovel Knight, right? Did you do Spectre, or did you do anything, or just Shovel? I can't remember. I apologize.
So I only did Shovel Knight's campaign, but I did sort of read about the other ones a little bit to kind of like, because like I when I did Shovel Knight's campaign, it always seemed to me like there was a prequel to this game, and I kind of was this was the only Shovel Knight game I knew of, but I was kind of like, oh, maybe there's like a prequel to this game out there that like I just don't know of. And then I kind of like looked it up, and I was like, oh wait, this is like literally the first game of this series. So like, what is this thing where like something happened before this game that like Shovel Knight's really upset over, and he's like kicking himself for, right? And then I found out like, okay, a lot of that is gone through in the other campaigns, which I do actually intend to play. It just unfortunately couldn't get to them before we did the podcast.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah.
it kind of sounds like a lot of the other campaigns kind of travel along the same map and storyline. Like they all start at the village and they all end at the Enchantress's Tower. But they all have like different steps to get there, and they're at different points along the timeline.
Yeah.
Shovel Knights, I think, is just the last part of the timeline, right?
I believe so, because I think the king that has the card game. Oh my god, I'm forgetting his freaking name. Um, it's the other knight that you can play. And
King of Cards or King Knight
king,
or something like that.
something like that. Yeah, and his whole thing is like he travels the world and wants to beat people with cards, and he's like this jolly, happy, like weird, like guy. So I didn't play any of his stuff, but I was reading some stuff too and watching some stuff. So I don't know. I think he's also before. So yeah, I think you're right. I think everything is before the Shovel Knight. But again, I think they wrap everything pretty good together. And like even the Spectre Knight, you don't actually travel through a map. You kind of go through like a portal or like a mirror or something to travel to the worlds. So they kind of break it up a little bit, whereas I think the Plague Knight gets the map as well. So I think they definitely take their time when they develop this game to make things a bit differently. Now, I was told that if you really play through the Plague Knight, you're going to see a lot of similarities between him and the Shovel Knight's levels. Like, they're not as drastically different. So you might be feeling it's kind of the same. But the other two knights apparently are vastly different. So that's kind of cool. But yeah,
So
I mean, go ahead.
I just looked up a little bit of the campaigns to kind of like fill myself in a little bit.
Yeah.
Without spoiling too much for myself, but apparently the Shovel Knight Showdown mode is actually kind of considered to be game 1.
Oh.
The events of that happen during one of the other campaign's storylines, but the events of the battle mode kind of prompt Shovel Knight's storyline.
Okay.
So like there is backdata to Shovel Knight's storyline when you play through the other campaigns, but Shovel Knight's actual storyline is him going through the battle mode.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I played the battle mode for a little, and I remember killing the first boss pretty easily, and then the second boss, I just got destroyed because it was like a 1v3 or something. It was like 3 Spectre Knights versus Shovel Knight. I'm like, dude, there's no way. What?
I got that with the King Knight, and I was just like, I'm just gonna sit up here, and it was on a Propeller Knight stage, and the King Knights were like stuck down at the bottom, like they couldn't get up to me, and it was kind of like annoying. So like I would go down there, I would try to fight him, but I would be fighting 3 on a small platform, and I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna wait for you guys to go into like the little propeller part of the stage, get stuck there, and then just down shovel you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, overall, guys, if you had to give this game a rating, and would you recommend this? Let's say 1 out of 5, and would you recommend it to a friend or anybody that you know? Because I got the game for I think $39.99. I got it for my PS5. I know, crazy. I bought this little game that has like no graphics. I got it on my PS5, but I wanted to use my PS5. So I thought at first, I'm like, this is a little pricey, but when you think about it, you get all the campaigns, you get this battle mode, you get the challenge modes, you get a lot for a game. And nowadays games are going for like 60 to 70 bucks now standard. It's kind of crazy. So I guess $39.99 isn't too steep, and I thought maybe they could probably drop 10 bucks, but I think it was overall like good for the price for the content. So I was just wondering what you guys thought about all that.
So I'll continue leading with that stuff. So on a scale of 1 to 5, I'm pretty bad at giving numbers. I'd say 3 to 4. I would definitely recommend it, honestly.
Go for a scale of 1 to 10 and give it a 7.
There you go.
Yeah.
We can do 1 to 10. That's fine.
Yeah,
That's fine.
or I could make it a 1 to 10 and give it a 7. As someone that grew up and started with platforming games and has been playing platforming games for a while, it's not anything super difficult. but it's nice. So I think it's a really good game for recommendation. It has, like I said, it's like a love letter to the older 16-bit Super NES games, with platforming and the bosses and whatnot. So I think it's a fantastic game to recommend. There's a lot of content. Even if each campaign clocks in at about 5 hours, that's still 20 hours between the 4 different nights.
And then the battle mode on top of that.
Yeah, and then you
Yeah,
have the battle
yep.
mode on top of that. So I got the game a while ago. I have it for my Switch. I don't remember how much I paid for it because I got it a few years ago, but I just got around to completing it now. But I personally would recommend it. I think it's a really good game overall, even though, like I talked about, like it not being super difficult, me finding like what worked for me the best and like kind of abusing that, I still think it's a really good game. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it. I would not mind going back and completing the rest of the modes. I think I'll probably do that, so I definitely think it's a worthwhile game.
George, you're up, man.
So like a $60 game I think of as like a Final Fantasy or like a Tales or like a Halo, where you have a 150-hour plus game or a really, really quality multiplayer game that like you're just going to play for like hours with your friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shovel Knight doesn't have that, right? It doesn't have that like online play that you're going to play for hours. I think you could probably do multiplayer local play with the battle mode. I didn't check that out, but I think that probably exists.
I think there's an online mode, but I could totally be wrong with
Okay.
just the versus mode. That I think that's
Maybe there is that mode. It might be okay. It doesn't have the flashiness of like a Super Smash Brothers or something like that.
Agreed. Yeah.
So it's a little bit basic in those regards. So like when I look at it compared to like one of those games, I don't think it's a $60 game. Then the next step down, do I think it's a $40 game? A $40 game to me is something that has a decent campaign and maybe a little bit of online support. I think this fits that bill. I think the campaign is a little short for me, and I think I would be willing to pay $30 for it. I think $40 might be slightly overcosted. Because like I think of something like Hollow Knight, right? Hollow Knight is at max a $20 game. It's very similar. It's the first game of its franchise. Like the developer wanted to get it out there, so maybe they cut the price a little bit. But
yeah,
like when you look at the two games, like I think Hollow Knight actually has more content.
Yeah,
and it's half the price.
And that's a really good point, because I was comparing it to Hollow Knight 2, and I'm like, well, man, I mean, they're two different games entirely. But I guess if you look at it from that perspective, then yeah, because I think I got Hollow Knight for like $15. And
I just think you look at it at content. I think Shovel Knight has more varied content. Like Hollow Knight is, it's one campaign, one character. You go through. It has a couple different endings. That's the way that guy is. Shovel Knight's campaign is 5, maybe 10 hours if you're trying to 100% it and you don't know where stuff is. You multiply that by 4 characters and a battle mode. Maybe there's 50 hours of content in this game. And that seems like where the game would max out. This is a challenge mode too. That maybe will bring another 10 hours to most players. I think I did it in 3. So yeah. I want to say probably it has about 50 hours of content. $40 for 50 hours of content feels overpriced a little bit to me. I think 30 is where I would get this for. And I see it on sale frequently enough. I also play it on the Switch. The Switch store has it on sale. When we talked about doing this podcast originally, it was on sale on the Switch store for $20.
Dude, I was like, oh
it
my
wasn't.
God.
It wasn't confirmed that we were going to do this or another game, and I didn't pick it up until after it went off, and then we confirmed it, and I'd pick it up at full price, and I was like, no. But if you can get it for $30 or less, I would say it is probably worth it.
Yeah, I think when this game originally came out and they started adding features, I think if you bought the game originally, right, and the price was probably drastically different back then, you got all the features for free. So I think and Rob, you probably don't, like you said, you don't remember when you got it, but like George and I coming in at this time, it probably, from what I was reading, the price kind of was going up a little bit as it was getting more stuff and things like that. So if you came in on the later end, like you and George, you and I think we are paying a little bit more than what was really originally.
I think also one of the things to think about is this game came out in, would you say, 2018, 2019?
2000, was it? I thought it was. Well, Treasure Trove came out in 2019, which basically includes everything in one sweep, in one purchase.
Okay, so I guess that there were previous iterations of those games that didn't have everything. So yes, this is the first game of the series, but this is kind of like a remastered first game of the series.
Yeah, they definitely added a couple things here and there, like so definitely I think remastered.
Well, it's kind of like
really
when you
good.
buy like, I'm trying to think of like my best example of this. Kind of like when you bought original Borderlands. If you guys have played Borderlands, I'm sure there's other games that do this too. But the original Borderlands just had the main campaign, right? And then as the game continued to be successful, they said, oh well, let's add in some DLC, and they added in like DLC 1,
Yeah.
DLC 2, and I think the original Borderlands went up to like DLC 4 or something like that. There were like 4 DLCs, and then somewhere along the line, the game developer said, hey, we finished this game. It's kind of annoying to buy 4 DLCs for it, so we're going to repackage all of this up and give you the Borderlands Remastered Edition, right?
Yes.
And the Remastered Edition has all of the DLC in it, and you can buy it like this now. It feels very much like Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, right? And I guess kind of going back to that Hollow Knight Shovel Knight comparison, like Hollow Knight was the first game of its franchise. It had some DLC come out for it, but Hollow Knight I think took a while to kind of get that not acknowledgement, it's the word for when you find success finally, and people find you.
It's kind of acknowledgement, like people are finally
recognition.
Recognition.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what we want. It took a little while for Hollow Knight to get its recognition, and people and the developers kept the cost down so like people would get into the game so that they have a game series to build on. Shovel Knights has been building, it looks like since June 2014 was when it first came out. So it's had 7 years to build on. So what I can only assume is that the game we're getting is sort of like a remastered edition of the very first game, whereas something like Hollow Knight is the very first game. So the crowd and the background behind Shovel Knight is already there, so it commands a little bit of a higher price tag because people are willing to pay for it because they know the game's already good. Whereas in contrast to something like Hollow Knight, it's the first iteration of it, not like a remastered iteration of it with all the DLC content included. So it's a known title instead of like an unknown title. And a known title, like a Mario game, could be anything. You're going to pay $60 for it, right? Because it's Mario.
It's Mario.
Or like, or a Zelda game.
Yes.
Like for the most part, like you're not going to go out there, even if it's like a remake of like a 1982 Zelda, 1984 Zelda game, right? It's coming out with brand new like graphics and like maybe a couple extra boss content. You might, some people out there might pay $60 for it, even though I could get a NES and the old school Zelda game for probably around that price and play the original.
Yeah. So rating, George, what's the rating, man? Out of 10.
Out of 10, I probably go with a 6. It's better than average. I'd probably go with a 7. It's a good game. There's nothing wrong with it. I just enjoyed more difficult content, and I'm going to have to play, like, it sounds like I can get there with the New Game Plus, maybe, but I want to play on that mode from the very start. Like, I want to go into a game and I want to play on Veteran or Insane. I don't want to play on Normal. Making me play through Normal makes my skin crawl because the game's just going to be too easy for me.
Yeah.
And then, similarly, like, the music was good, but nothing in there really floored me. The gameplay was tight. There wasn't I didn't find any like graphical or program, or I didn't run into any graphical or programming bugs. Nothing ate my save file. I have an infinite hatred for some stupid game called Avocuddle, which ate my save file when I was fighting the last boss. So yeah, I mean, it's a quality game. You're getting quality content, and it is a game I would recommend for intermediate to advanced or less gamers. I think high-level gamers who've been playing for a long time, they will either enjoy the nostalgia and enjoy the game, or probably find the game too easy, and it would take too long to get them to a level of difficulty that will challenge them.
Yeah, I could see that. I think playing this game overall, I gotta say, I think it deserves a 7. Now, I think my taste in games are pretty insane. Like I like a lot of MMOs. Like everybody knows that listens to me. I like MMOs. I like the crazy boss fights. Not necessarily raiding, but boss fights that make you move, that make you think. And that's why I really liked Hollow Knight. It had a lot of those mechanics. And I agree with you guys. I think a lot of these bosses I just kind of were pounding through. I think there is a lot of content. So I would recommend this game to really honestly, if you want to just play a platformer that reminds you of Mario and Mega Man, it's definitely worth picking up. You're definitely going to see a lot of similarities with the enemies, with the bosses, with the level design. It's overall pretty solid game, and with taking into account with how some games get released where they're not even completed, this game is completed. This game really doesn't have any bugs. This game doesn't... I didn't run into a single issue playing the game. I could just play the game, and that's what you're getting for sure. And I think what the developers were going for, they hit it pretty well. But I think, like, I agree with what you guys are saying. If we've been playing games for so long, there's nothing in this game that's really gonna say, "Holy shit!" Like, I've never seen this before, or really get us on edge. But overall, it's a solid game. So I gotta say 7. I hate always agreeing with people, but I have to agree because I don't want to give it much higher, but I don't want to go lower because honestly, it's a solid game.
But I'm just in this boat where I feel like if you get a 8, a 9, or like a 10, everything has to be perfect, right? Like
yeah, it's gotta
the
be
music
pretty
the music has to kick butt. The boss fights have to challenge me like enough to kind of like intrigue me. Maybe not make me like rage, but some of the games that challenge you also get you at a point where you're raging. And like the level design has to be like, I don't think an 8-bit game should get a 10, or a 16-bit game should get a 10, because just graphics alone are going to hinder you, right? You're not going to have like the billowing hair of a Final Fantasy or something like that.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
graphics alone, I think if you're grading it on like if you're grading on a scale of like all video games out there, just like a bit type game, I don't think graphically can match anything out there that is done in the newer type development areas. So like I think you're automatically at a 9 then, and then you have to have absolutely fantastic gameplay and absolutely fantastic music for an 8-bit game to hit a 9. And I think we talked about the music it was okay, like, but it didn't it's not something we're gonna put on our like iPods or or Apple Music lists and like listen to like over and over again, right?
Yeah.
So I mean that's gonna take it down to I think an 8, and then maybe Shovel Knight could be an 8, but there's content, but there's not that, like, there's content there. There's definitely content in the game, but it's not too difficult the first time you're running through, and that for me knocks it down to a 7, because I didn't really feel challenged. And then after that, I don't have any other knocks against it that would put it at a 6, because I think a 6 is like, yeah, this game is a game you should buy, but you could pass on it and it wouldn't be like that much of a miss, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I think you would miss if you didn't play this game, but you're not going to miss that much. And like a 5 or a below is like, this game's average, or this game has problems, or there are just
Yeah.
things I really hate about this game. Like, it's a quality game. It has good content to it. It's worth playing, but it's not a miss if you don't play it. I think that's where I am, and that's how I feel like most 7s are. Like an 8 is like, all right, you should probably play this game, because if you don't play this game, you're gonna be missing out on something. A 9 is like, this game is fantastic, and there's like 1 or 2 flaws with it. And then a 10 is just like, you cannot miss playing this game.
Yeah, yeah. So, I guess, I think we hit a lot of good points, and I appreciate you guys coming on. Is there any last words you guys have?
I don't know. I think I hit on all of my points with it. Like I said, I really enjoyed the game. I know I did kind of talk a bit about it not being necessarily challenging, but I still personally think that it was really good. I don't really think I have anything else to add, honestly.
George, man, anything? I think we covered a lot, so I think we hit this hard pretty well.
Yeah, I think we hit this one pretty well. Like I said, it's an enjoyable game. It's definitely there. It's not a miss if people don't grab it. But I do think they hit a lot of the nostalgia factors that, like, if you have, like, I do think one of the things the game has going for it is, like I said earlier, I haven't seen a Super Mario Brothers 3 map in forever. And honestly, that nostalgia on opening up the game, I was kind of like, all right, I haven't seen this in forever, and this is kind of getting me going.
Yeah.
So that was definitely there. Outside of that, come play Smash Brothers at Gamers Heaven on Phoenixville on Sundays. Yeah, we run a weekly Smash tournament there. We have all sorts of people come down from all sorts of player levels, from top 5 people in Philadelphia to people who are just learning the game. So hit me up in the comments, or just if you want to come down, give a holler.
Sweet.
Stop by.
Yeah, I feel like I gotta come by sometime, even if I'm getting my ass kicked. I gotta come by and just hang out and play.
You can come by and just hang out. $10 for the day. That's all it is.
Yeah, sounds fun, man. Sounds awesome. Rob, I don't know if you have any plugs, man. You got any plugs at all? Dish out to
Not
people?
yet.
All right.
I don't have any anything to advert. I'm thinking in the near future of starting streaming, but nothing yet. So I don't have any channels to plug. I don't have any people to put on blast for anything at all. So right now, no.
All right.
In the future, probably though.
You're not gonna drop a sick diss track on somebody?
No, I don't think I'm gonna be dropping the. I'm not dropping the next fire track of 2021.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. So if you're, depending on where you're listening, I'm going to put this up on YouTube. It's going to be on Spotify and iTunes and a couple other places. So definitely check us out, subscribe, follow, do whatever you can to help us out. Thank you so much, guys. Have a fantastic weekend and day. See ya.
See ya, everybody.
Catch y'all later.